It is time to inlay the 7th fret on my fretboard, and we're going to use a similar technique to last time, where we're going to use the paper template actually on the fretboard to position the pieces accurately, because this is a multi-piece inlay where it's just 2 pieces, but I need them to be, you know, accurately positioned relative to each other and within the between the frets and across the width of the fretboard. But unlike last time, I'm not going to glue the pieces onto the template. I'm just going to use the paper template on the fretboard and very carefully cut along the lines rather than using the actual inlay pieces as a guide. And there were 2 things persuaded me of this, well, maybe 3 things. Last time I glued the pieces onto the template and there was squeeze out, and super glue squeeze out, and this made it a little bit tricky to cut around. I was having to cut through the super glue, and possibly I lost a little bit of accuracy because of this. But somebody suggested in the comments that I should just try the template on its own and just cut along the lines, and I was unsure about this to begin with, because of course that doesn't take into account any variations in the pieces, even if I try to accurately cut to the lines on the actual pieces themselves. Yeah, well, we'll see. This is in some ways an experiment. But I realised that Larry Robinson, who wrote the excellent book, he's an incredible inlay artist. He uses this technique himself on large inlay pieces where he's got a number of pieces and there's a large area. He will have glued all these pieces together onto his paper template, but he doesn't fix the paper template onto the fretboard. He uses a separate copy and then routes into the paper template. So that method is good enough for Larry Robinson. But the final piece that convinced me of all this, I was concerned that I might be a little inaccurate in places. But I got sent an advert by a leading company, I won't name them, but some of you reading this may have received the same email. They were trying to sell me, did I just say reading this, watching this video? They were trying to sell me inlay router bits. And there was a picture of a very fancy inlay with pearl inlay and an example of the work that had been done with these router bits, and it was really loose. There were some quite large gaps between the inlay and the fretboard, and I was quite shocked by this, because I wouldn't have been happy with that level of work. But I guess it's okay in that it will get filled in when you glue the pieces in and you maybe use epoxy filler. I guess it all looks okay in the end, but I was quite shocked at what they'd tolerate. But I guess this is true of professionals who have to work quickly. Maybe there's a chance to accept lower levels of work. Ooh, I don't know what I'm suggesting here, but let's move on, shall we? Yeah. Let's go and do the inlay. We'll first cut out the pieces and then we'll glue the paper template. I'll cut a piece out that's the width of the frets, glue it on here, and see how it turns out. It's an experiment. having the ends flapping is going to annoy me, so I'll put a blob under there as well. You'll notice some pencil lines have appeared. This is so that I can make sure I keep these two lines parallel. And I'm just going to use the straight edge just to draw that line. The rest of it I'll do freehand. Try and just get right on the line. And then flip the whole thing. And repeat. Obviously I'm doing it this way so I can see the limits of where I've got to go. The cut pieces I've trimmed just to the edge. In fact, I don't think I'm actually down to the edge. So I'm going to make sure I do my cuts right on the outside edge of the line. And I probably will need to trim these pieces down a little bit further with the file. Probably not much. I am very close to the line, but I am definitely over the line. it's getting these pointy bits clean is what I find a bit tricky, but I guess once you've made the vertical cuts, the material more or less falls away. Sort of. I think we're getting to the point where I need to try a fit, and I'm pretty sure it won't fit, but we'll try and get an idea of how close we are. As I suspected, I am nowhere near a fit. I've got to take a fair bit off the... I say a fair bit, it's a fraction of a millimetre, but working at this sort of scale, it feels like a huge amount that I've got to take off. But I'll do that now before I get them to depth. If I can at least just get them fitting in the top, then we'll sort the depth out. But be careful not to round the edge here. Try and keep my file straight. Why am I whispering? Right, the advantage of doing this method is I've now got a very, very good fit. In fact, I might drill a hole through so I can push this out again, because it will get stuck, and now I've got to get it to the right depth. But the downside is this has taken me an hour to get this level of fit. So yeah, although I could of course have cut it out closer to the line to begin with, which would have saved me time, something I need to bear in mind next time really. Now all that remains is to get an extra millimetre of depth. It's easier if I have my glasses off. Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. It doesn't quite fit properly. It's not going in at this end. Oh, very, very close. Nearly there. I think we're there. That is now jammed solid. I think that is okay. That is a very, very tight fit. Hopefully I can poke them out using the holes I've drilled. Still worry about breaking them, but I think we're ready to glue. As for the previous inlay, I'm going to use a little bit of ebony dust. I've just realised I'm going to end up sticking this to the epoxy is going to go through the hole onto my cutting board, and I don't want my cutting board covered in epoxy. Right, I no longer need paper patterns. I think I'll just leave that as it is. Last time I tried to wipe and clean up, not this time. I'm just going to leave it like that, let it set, and then sand back. I'll leave that 24 hours to dry. Well, that went really well. I think I've sort of proved this method. It can be a little bit lengthy because of the sizing of the pieces, but in terms of accuracy, it really works remarkably well. So I think I'm going to use this method for the remaining inlays. Talking of which, one of the things that this has done for me, just doing the 7th fret, it has allowed me to consider the layout of the fretboard and how I'm going to do the other inlays, and a decision has been made, but you'll have to tune into the next video, or next but one of the following videos, to find out what that decision is. I'm not going to sand this. I'm not going to sand it until I've done the other inlays, so unfortunately you can't really appreciate fully how good a fit I've got, although hopefully you saw the quality of the fit before I did the glue. But I am really rather pleased with the accuracy I got with this. So on with the inlay. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit that little notify button, comment, like, do all the usual things, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!